Welcome back to our video poker project, and we've entered now into phase 4. So we've created our interface, we've set up the game, we've coded our hold buttons, drawn the initial cards, handled the holding of those cards, drew the second round of cards, and we can toggle those holds on or off, and we've handled the betting and adjusting balance. So what remains for us to do in this phase is to check to see if we won. And if we did win, we want to display those results. We want to increment the balance with the wins based on our bet using this pay table. And we want to do some thorough testing. It might seem like figuring out what hands we've drawn is going to be a difficult algorithm. And there are several different types of hands to check for. We want to check for these in order. So we're going to use a if-else-if structure to do that. And we're going to compare the suits and the faces of all of our 5 cards to figure out if we fall into one of those categories. And really, the work we did in that very first coding lesson, where we created some class level variables, and we created some arrays of current hand, card face, card suit, cards, and we assigned a sequence of a letter and a number, or a letter and a letter to each card, will help us determine the face of that card and the suit of that card, and that's going to be split out into these card face and card suit arrays, and then we can easily do some comparison to see if we fall into one of these poker hands. And that's all being stored in our current hand array. We've already set up that current hand, and we've set up our cards. We just now need to split that out into card face and card suit and do some checking. So with that, let's go back to our project. What we have left to do is to see if we won anything, if we had a winning hand, and if we did, how much did we win, and add that to our balance and let the user know that they won. So I'm going to go back into our code, and I'm going to go to the btn draw _ click event handler for our btn draw button, and we had that set up where we can do the initial hand, but then also the second hand to draw the second cards, whatever we didn't hold. We have a button being set back up for the next play, a btn draw, but we need to figure out, did they win? And so what I'm going to do is just simply create another method called check for win. And we'll create that method. I'm going to scroll down to my user-defined methods, and I'm with that check for win up here at the top. So private void check for win, and make sure I spell check for win correctly. Check for win. That should then cause that squiggly to go away from up above where we had it in our btn draw, and it did. So we're going to start by setting the payout equal to 0. We have our current hand array, which had things like SA for the ace of spades or D4 for the 4 of diamonds. We're going to create a method called populate analysis arrays. We're not going to pass it anything. We're going to use that class level current hand array. We want to take that control hand array and separate those values, the suit and the face value, into our 2 separate class level arrays called card face and card suit. We're going to use those to determine if we had a winning hand or not. We'll come back and create that populate analysis arrays method in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and code a few more things here. And we're going to verify the results. So I'm going to temporarily bring up a message box that will show these values. So we're going to say string suits equals quote quote, and string faces equals quote quote. So null strings. Next we'll create a loop for int I equals 1, I is less than 6, and I plus plus. So we'll increment I each time through the loop. We're going to get those 5 cards, or the 5 elements from our suit and face from our card suit and card face arrays. And so suits then is going to plus equal the card suit array element I plus, and we'll add a space after that. And then faces plus equals, same thing, card face array element I plus and a space. After that, we want to bring up a message box that shows those values. And it's simply going to say suits plus suits plus, we'll do a new line character, faces. So that's a literal string. I want that in quotes. Plus the value of faces. And then we'll just call our title sorted values. Okay, so in order before we can test that, and this is all going to be used for testing, we'll comment this out a little bit later, but we need to create that populate analysis arrays method. So I'm going to scroll down, and we're going to do it after our place bet method. Private void populate analysis arrays. We're not going to pass anything. We're going to use our classable variables. We're going to create an integer called I equal to 0. I'm going to do a string called face value. Next we'll do a for loop. For I equals 1, I is less than 6, and I plus plus. So we're going to go through our 5 cards. Card suit I is going to equal current hand element I, and we're going to take the substring 0, 1 character. So index 0, 1 character length. If you remember, each one of those elements in current hand is the suit and the face value, such as H3 would be the 3 of hearts. We're going to pull out that first letter, index 0, and place that in the card suit element I from that current hand element I. We're going to do the same thing with the card face. Face value equals current hand element I. We're going to take substring again, index 1, 1 character. I'm going to take card face element I and set it initially equal to 0. And then a few ternary conditionals. So card face element I equals, and if face value is equal to t, that's our 10. We're going to set the value of card face sub I to 10, else it'll be 0. And I'm missing a quote after the T. All right, I'm going to copy that line, and we're going to paste this a few times. So if it is the J, we're going to set that value equal to 11. If it's the uppercase Q, it'll be 12. The K will be 13, and the ace will be 14. Now, what if it's a number? So let's do one more. Card face element I equals, and if card face element I is still equal to 0, then we're going to say that is equal to int.parse of face value. Otherwise, it'll be card face element I. And I should use card face I instead of zeros on those others. We're really looking just to change the value of card face if those booleans are true, and not set it to a value if they're false. Card face and card suit are both arrays, and we can sort those, but we started with element 1, so I probably want to set element 0s to each of these. So let's just say card suit element 0 equals capital A, so it's always going to be the first one when we sort it, and then card face element 0 is going to equal a 0, so it's always the first element when we sort it. We want these sorted so we can see if particularly if there is a straight where if there's 5 cards sequentially together, especially on the face. On the suit, it makes it a little bit easier to determine if there's a flush or not. So then I'm going to say array dot sort, and I want to sort card suit, and then array dot sort, and I want to sort card face. That should put those in order. And now let's go ahead and test and see if we get those two arrays sorted and get the correct values from our cards. So we're going to start. I'm going to draw. I'm going to hold my 2 7s. Draw again. And so here are our sorted values. Club, 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 spade, spade. Just happen to be that order that shows here. That's not necessarily the order that they would appear, but this is alphabetized. And then the faces, 7, 7, 9, 13, and 13. So that appears to be working. I'm going to do this again. And so I want to make sure that our larger values are working. I'm going to hold those 3, draw again. And this time I get club, club, diamond, diamond, and heart. And then my values are 3, 10, 12, 12, and 13. So they're in ascending order on both of those. And let's just try one more time. Let's see if I can get an ace. There's my ace. I'll go ahead and hold an 8 and a 10. Let's draw again. And so now we have 1 diamond, 1 heart, 3 spades, and the values are going 7, 8, 10, 10, 14 is the ace. So that's all working. I'm going to go back to my code, and I'm going to scroll up to the check for win. I no longer need that block of code. I'm just going to comment it out. So everything from my suits declaration as a null string to the ending of my for loop. Actually, I get the message box as well. We don't need that anymore. I'm going to copy or select all that. Go to the edit menu, advanced, comment selection. We could have also deleted it. Might be handy though if we were going to come back and do some debugging to have that there. Now that we've got the order of the suits and the order of the cards, we can begin to see if we had any of those winning hands. So I'm going to create an if-else-if structure, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check for royal flush. And all I'm going to do is call a method that we're going to create that's going to return either true or false. So if that is a true value, then we want to do something. And for now, we're just going to say stop here. then we'll do an else, and I'm going to copy this if structure because we want to make this an else if. We're going to do the same thing here for a straight flush, which would be the second highest hand we could get. And then I'll copy that else if fork. This one will simply be 4 of a kind. Paste again. The next hand is a full house. So again, we're going to create methods for each of these that we're referencing that return a Boolean expression with a true or false. And if one of these is true, we're starting at the very top. So yes, if you get a royal flush, it's also a straight flush. But we only want to pay out on the royal flush and not both of those. So that's why we use the if, else if. And we're always checking for the highest payout first. So after our full house, the next one is a flush. And then a straight. Three of a kind. Two pair. So 2 pairs. And then jacks or better. So 1 pair of jacks or better. Capitalize the B in better. And then we want an else. And the else fork is going to call a method, I'm sorry to say, we're calling it loser. Maybe losing hand would be better, so we're focusing on the lost hand and not the person themselves. I've got an extra parenthesis there, but I didn't put in the parentheses for the method. Okay, so I'm going to double check all that. That all looks good. So now we're going to start to write these particular methods. And in doing that, I'm going to do it down here at the bottom. Actually, I'm going to come up for a minute. I'm going to grab my comments. I'm going to put all these grouped together. These are user-defined methods, but they're all related to poker hands. So I'll call these poker hand methods. Okay, so we need to create our royal flush. We're going to do this in order. So we're going to have a private, but this time we're passing a Boolean expression back, either true or false. And we're calling this one royal flush. Not passing anything. And we're going to create a Boolean value of flush equals false and a Boolean value of straight equals false, because it has to be both a straight and a flush. In fact, it has to be a straight of 10, jack, queen, king, ace. So if card suit element 1 equals card suit element 5. They're all the same, 1 through 5. It could be all hearts, all spades, all clubs, all diamonds. If that is true, I need to put this inside parentheses. So the first and the last one are the same. We'll set flush equal to true. Next, we need to determine if it's a straight. So we can do that by if card face element 5 is equal to card face element 4 plus 1, and card face element 4 is equal to card face element 3 plus 1, and get my brackets correct there, and card face element 3 is equal to card face element 2 plus 1. And I'm going to drop down the next line. Card face element 2 is equal to card face element 1 plus 1. Then we have a straight. So we'll say straight equals true. Okay, so we have a flush, we have a straight in the same hand. That's a straight flush, but is it a royal flush, or some people refer to it as a royal straight flush? Well, we need to check one more thing. If straight and flush, remember those are Boolean expressions, so we can just say they're either true or false. I don't have them equal anything. And I need to make sure that the card face element 5 is equal to 14. That will mean that that last card is an ace. So therefore, if it's a straight, it has to be 10, jack, queen, king, ace. And we've already said it's a flush. That makes a royal flush. Now this is extremely rare. We're going to write a test to force the program to do this so we see if this actually works. But if that's true, then if bet is equal to 5, they get a bonus on the royal straight flush. And the payout then equals 5,000. Else, the payout equals the amount of the bet times 250. And then LBL result.text equals jackpot. A royal flush. We'll do a couple of ellipses and then say you won with a dollar sign, and we concatenate to that payout.toString. And we're going to return true. And then the else fork of that whole expression as far as the last if those are not true, we want to return false. It was not a royal flush. Forgot my semicolon up here. So we're getting some errors as far as straight flush, and those others do not exist. We'll need to create those before we test. If you just jumped into this video, you can see all the videos from the C# Xamarin Programming Cohort playlist by clicking on the image in the lower right. And if you'd like to be alerted to future videos that I create, you can click my picture up in the top right and subscribe to the channel.